So back again with Simon Nott, of course, betting people legend, and we're going to ask you about a couple of your interviews. First of all, which interview have you ever conducted that really, really took you by surprise, that gave you something you weren't expecting? Okay.
Right, Andy Gibson. Now, he's a professional punter in Lancaster, and I went up there, expecting to talk to a professional punter. When I came away, the train was heaving, it was raining, somebody was sat in my seat. Most of the things that I would have been annoyed about, because I had a long journey back to Devon, it was going to take me about 8 hours. But Andy Gibson, not only was he extremely interesting to talk to as a professional punter, but it's just such the whole house radiated such happiness. I mean, he takes in refugees that have come across, from war-torn countries, puts them up in his house, helps them out, and they, there's people there, and I was meeting these people you never normally meet. Just everything about the whole experience, I went away feeling quite elated. The plus side was the video was also very popular, still very popular, but that that was just, I'd never expected that, and I came away with quite a different idea about things, and just it was just, I did a blog about it actually. I was so touched by it all, so that was one that surprised me, definitely.
Recently, of course, it's just in the background. You've got the book Rogue Trader by Nick Leeson, of course. Nick Leeson, I think, will be a name familiar even to some non-racing fans who might happen to be watching this. What was your impression of him? Because, to interview somebody who did that, what was it like?
He's a very, very nice chap. He met me at the hotel where we arranged to meet, and just really nice, down. I don't know what I was expecting, really. I don't think I was expecting anything less than what he was. He was very friendly, down to earth. I mean, and he sort of he realises that he's notorious because what he did was, was wrong, and, he brought down a bank and stuff. But, it was just, I think, like you said, he did his time, and, he's now getting on with his life. Picked himself up. There was quite a backlash from various quarters on Twitter saying you shouldn't have interviewed somebody that was a criminal and all. But the thing was, what he did, he tried to cover up initially a mistake that was made on the trading floor, to cover up, one of his members of staff, and things got out of hand. I mean, he wasn't stealing the money to put in his own pocket. He was trying to dig himself out, like probably a lot of gamblers have tried to do. You go in there and do a £20 each way snide 11 to 2 shot, which gets beat, and all of a sudden you're looking at, you can't pay the rent, and the nightmare scenario, and then all of a sudden the earthquake in the Asia then multiplied the, so even though he didn't steal 80 million or whatever it was, he lost it on behalf of the firm. So it's not quite the same as the great train robbers. So he was very interesting. It was nice to meet him.
Another interview recently that you've done, there was some controversy over comments that he made. And now, generally, when you're interviewing somebody, what's it like to be on the other side when they say something that people pick up and run with? Because there were some people who were rather unhappy with what he said about, our current Prime Minister, Boris Johnson. What was that like? Because it went a bit off-piste when it was talk about him and he started talking about politics. And I wonder, from this side of the chair, what do you do when something like that goes, catches fire, basically?
Well, Dave Yates was one of those. He is an outspoken character. So one of the reasons for getting him on was because he was an outspoken character, and within reason, people can say what they want. The Davies, he's sort of near the knuckle with what he said, but he was going on record as of it being his opinion. I did get a steward's inquiry from a few people that he shouldn't have been allowed to say what he said. He'd already said similar things on Twitter, and also the political part of it was very small. But he does write for the Daily Mirror, which is a confessed left-wing leaning paper. So I thought that from 4 parts, the 2 minutes that we talked about politics out of about 45 was probably justified, because and then he had a right to say his opinion. Then he's put himself out there, so a lot of people probably thought a lot less of him, and other people might have thought more of him. But I'm sure it was all tongue-in-cheek. He didn't really mean literally what he was saying there. But that was Dave's interview, and I took the decision that Dave's interview was Dave's interview.
Thinking about 2020, betting people, we've covered a lot of ground. I think it's fair to say. Is there anybody that you'd still think, gosh, I'd like to interview them? Is there anybody that we might expect you to be chasing after Christmas?
Well, there is the one absolute big one, which is Barney Curley. I mean, I've been in contact with Barney. I've spoken to him a few times. A few times I thought I was definitely going to be there, but I did get to go and have a cup of tea with him in Newmarket this summer, and he sort of left it slightly that I might be in with a chance. He's the one. He's been my hero since I first got interested in racing. So he was my dream interviewee, Barney.
Did you get on any of his gambles? Did you get on the what was it? There was a huge one at, wasn't it Kempton?
I was there when, and I wrote a blog. The blog's still online now. And there was a couple of lads that did spot it, or they thought they spotted it, and they won about 60 grand, and they were in the stands, and it was very sparse at Kempton, as it often is, and they were absolutely roaring it home. I think one of the guys ended up working for Channel 4, not because of that, but he ended up there, and that was you got to have huge respect and admiration for somebody that can put together a gamble like that. It's still not officially admitted it was him, by the way, is he? But horses haven't seen a race course for years, a couple of years or whatever, and to get 4 on the same day, and to get them all ready, and to get them all to win, and get the money on,
it's
pretty amazing. I mean, it take your hat off to him. I do anyway.
There's been a lot of legendary gamblers on this list. Andy Gibson, Barney Curley. If you could give, apart from those two, who is the other big punter that you really respect as a big name? Because there are quite a few on the list of betting people that we've done.
Well, not punter, but bookmaker was Stephen Little. Now, Stephen has got to be the most successful independent on-course bookmaker of recent years in living memory. I mean, he started off working as a floorman, riding to the races on a push bike, and people up until the turn of the century will remember him turning up in his Bentley, in his Musquat coat, take £100,000 bets on the rails back in the in the 90s from punters, and he now lives in he calls it a terraced house, but where he lives in Bath is quite amazing. And he managed to keep the money, and he was still owed fortunes apparently when he turned it in. But he's a fascinating character, and I was really pleased to be able to interview him. I'm sure there's lots he didn't tell me. Still, he'd be good for a part 2. But he's a very high on my admiration list.
With betting people interviews, so what's your favourite thing actually about doing them? Because you've had such an extensive list, and there's been so many. Each person I speak to, and when I was doing the prep for this, each person I spoke to, they had their favourites. What's your favourite thing about the whole experience about interviewing?
Well, I've thoroughly enjoyed it because I've been in racing, for a long time now. When you're working in the betting ring, you are seeing the same people, most of the same people nearly every day. You're in the betting ring. When you get there, you're in there. You don't, unless you're the boss, you don't really get to go around in the paddock. You don't meet anybody apart from the nucleus that is in the betting ring. So for 20 odd years, half the time I didn't even know what a trainer looked like, because you weren't watching on the TV because you're always at racing. And then when I worked for Turf TV, you're returning SPs, but you're in that little box, you're in the press room. So even though you're involved with this sport, it's still quite insular. So you're doing 2 insular things. Now, it's absolutely fantastic. So I'm getting to meet a whole range of people in the sport that I've been in for a long time, and all different walks of life. I interviewed Peter Phillips, the Queen's grandson. I mean, I never thought I'd be interviewing him. Professional punters I'd never heard of that turned out to be hugely, sort of inspirational people. Just thoroughly enjoying the whole experience, and hopefully we can keep. There's so many that refuse to do it. So many that want to stay under the radar, that we keep chipping away and keep trying to get them. But there's so many interesting people out there with a story to tell, and hopefully we've got plenty more years of it yet.
From the racing media, what other interviewers do you really enjoy watching work?
Well, I mean, after I'd started doing this, you realise how brilliant Nick Luck is to be able to do 2.5, 3 hours of live TV was, as far as I can tell, minimal notes and just seamlessly, you know, my admiration for him is massive since I've been, I always respected him anyway, but since I've been doing this, it shows what talent, you know, anybody that can do live TV like that, interviewing people is pretty astonishing, really.
I think that's a great note to end on. Thank you, Simon Nott. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.